When the apocalyptic blizzard arrived, my mom, my daughter, and I were eating hot pot in our custom-built safe house, laughing as my scumbag husband's family brought about their own doom. I had a dream. I dreamed of the end of the world. The globe fell into extreme cold. There was a shortage of food and clothing. Because I ran a supermarket, I was somewhat prepared. So before the extreme weather hit, I half believed it, and stockpiled supplies. I didn't expect them to actually save my life in the apocalypse. In my dream, because my mother-in-law loved to flex by posting videos on TikTok, our house was targeted by a mob, bringing a fatal disaster upon us. Startled awake from the dream, I couldn't fall back asleep. I looked at my daughter, Shannon, sleeping soundly beside me. I gently tucked the blanket around her and left the bedroom. Passing by my mother-in-law's room through the crack of the door, the bright light of a phone screen seeped out. It was the middle of the night, and she was still tirelessly scrolling through videos. She was always like this. Just yesterday, she called her son, complaining that her whole body ached, and demanding I take her to see a doctor to get medicine. But as soon as she felt slightly better, started acting up again. I went to the living room to get some water. At that moment, loud music suddenly blasted from her room. I angrily walked to my mother-in-law's door. I saw her sit up in bed, frantically trying to turn off her phone. "Mom, haven't I told you many times? Keep the noise down at night. Shannon needs to sleep." She rubbed her nose awkwardly. I accidentally fell asleep just now. My phone dropped off the bed, and the earphones got yanked out. She did this often. It always seemed like an innocent mistake. And her attitude when apologizing was so good that it made it hard for me to criticize her. But then she would turn around, call her son, and complain about how hard her life was. The next day, my supermarket's purchasing manager came to me. He said someone had ordered a massive batch of goods. He handed me the invoice. I saw it was almost entirely basic foods like rice and flour, along with thick cotton quilts and winter coats. This perfectly matched the scenario in my dream. I excitedly grabbed my employee and asked for details about this big client. The employee replied, "Because the client said his house is under renovation, he wants us to store these items in our warehouse for another half month." Yes, it was him. In my dream, this exact client came to our supermarket for a massive haul. I found it strange, so I discreetly asked around my industry circles, only to discover that this person had placed identical orders in every supermarket. What was City A? Even stranger was that when we contacted suppliers to restock, many of them told us they were currently out of stock. Rumor had it that factory goods were being bought out by major clients before they even left the assembly line. I smelled something highly unusual in all this. So, besides fulfilling that client's purchase order, I mobilized all my resources and brought in a massive batch of goods myself, filling up my warehouse and even filling up my house. And now I was doing exactly the same thing. I purchased even more supplies than I had in the dream. In addition to that, I recalled the bloody scenes from my dream. Yes. If the apocalypse really comes, having supplies isn't enough. What's more important is the ability to protect those supplies. After arranging things at the supermarket, I found a renovation company and rushed home with the chief designer Xiaonan was at kindergarten. At this time, only my mother-in-law was home. I opened the door and saw her wearing my necklace and jewelry. She had even paired them with my silk scarf and hat, filming a video. She was wearing clothes meant for a much younger woman. The clothes I bought were stretched out of shape by her figure. She probably didn't expect me back at this hour. Seeing me and the stranger behind me, she awkwardly greeted us and guiltily hid in her room. I told the designer my renovation requirements. There were just two main points. First, install the best thermal insulation system for the whole house. Second, since my house was robbed before, I wanted top-tier security to feel completely safe. I was flush with cash. So, I told the designer that money was not an issue. I only wanted the absolute best. I asked him to draft a design first. If I was satisfied, once the house was done, I would give him the contract to renovate my supermarket as well. The designer was highly efficient. In just 2 days, he provided the blueprints. I showed the blueprints to friends in the industry. They said there were no issues. So, construction began immediately. My mother-in-law couldn't understand why I was renovating in the dead of summer. I just told her that because this summer was so unbearably hot. People were warning that the winter would be brutally cold. Besides, I was afraid she would betray me just like in the dream. So, I made a suggestion to her, since the summer was so hot. When Xiaonan goes on summer break, she should take her back to our rural hometown. Summers in the countryside, with all the trees and forests, were much cooler than the city. Since the house was under renovation anyway, she could head back first. Initially, she wasn't too keen on the idea, but after I stuffed 30,000 yuan into her hand, she smiled from ear to ear and happily packed her bags. My husband Fanjian, that filial son, felt guilty that he hadn't brought his parents to the city to enjoy a comfortable life after we got married the year we wed. He paid to rebuild his parents' house in the countryside. Refrigerators, AC units, and a water purification system were all installed. His father passed away after only a few years of enjoying it. Fan Jian felt sorry that his mother lived alone in the countryside. So, he took it upon himself to bring her to the city. As for him, well, he was only a filial son when it was convenient for him. He pawned the duty of serving his mother off onto me. He claimed he had projects overseas and hadn't been home for over a year. Fanjian was in the engineering business. He frequently traveled everywhere. We were in a long-distance marriage for a long time. However, in the past, no matter where he went, he would always bring back gifts for me and our daughter, and eagerly spend time with Xiaonan. So, towards my mother-in-law, I tried to be as tolerant as possible, but now, recalling the warning signs from my dream. After sending my mother-in-law away, I contacted someone else. I hired an investigator to look into Fanjian. A few days after my mother-in-law left, Fanjian called me. I used the same excuse I gave his mom. And I also told him, "Cette première gave 30,000 yuan and a whole coat supplies." His tone shifted from dissatisfied. I guessed right. My mother-in-law must have hidden the money from him. Toerson. She only complained that I forced her back to the countryside. Before she left, I thought about it for a long time. If her actions in my dream were just an innocent mistake, then this theme, I was leaving her a path to survival. The house, in the countryside, is large, even has a basement. I believed that as long as she didn't flex online and stayed quietly at home, those supplies would be enough for her to survive the winter. By the way, I sent a lot of things back with her. Tell Mom to keep a low profile. Don't post everything on the internet. Thieves aren't scary, but greedy neighbors are. I reminded Fan Jian about his mother's safety. He brushed it off carelessly. All right, I got it. You and our daughter take care of yourselves too. X en termes busy. I'm hanging up now. I looked at my phone, looking at a photo of him walking intimately with another woman. My eyes were completely cold. Of course, he was busy. He was busy building a little family with another woman. He was right here in the country, and that mistress already had a visible baby bump. Good, very good. After my mother-in-law returned to the countryside, she certainly didn't change her habits. She updated her TikTok constantly, interacting and showing off to all the rural relatives online. In short, my mother-in-law had no self-restraint whatsoever. Fan Jian, on the other hand, called to rush me a few times. He said his mom had cleaned up the old house and told me to bring Xiaonan back soon, so the old lady wouldn't be lonely. Lonely? I don't think so. I forwarded her TikTok videos to Fan Jian. In the video, she proudly displayed all the supplies I had sent her. Aunts and relatives sat in a circle in her house, gossiping. Mom is definitely better off in the hometown. She has company. Look how happy she is. It took Fan Jian a long time to reply. Mom is getting old. I'm not comfortable with her being home alone. Anyway, just remember to go back soon. Well, there were only a few days left before the apocalypse. I verbally agreed. Got it. When will your project be done? When are you coming back to the country? When you get back. Let's finalize buying the new car. Fan Jian had been wanting to change his car for a long time, but didn't have enough cash on hand. He wanted me to pay for it. Hearing this, he quickly replied, Okay, I'll arrange things. I'll be right back. All right, come back soon. You dead scumbag, in this life. I'm going to make you pay the price. As the extreme cold approached, I paid extra money for the renovation workers to hurry up. Reinforced, thickened steel plates and insulation. I supervised it personally to ensure no corners were cut. Additionally, I arranged for renovations at my supermarket warehouse. I planned to make it a shelter for my employees. I hoped everyone could safely survive this disaster. Because this year was so hot, Xiaonan's kindergarten started summer break early. By then, my house was fully renovated. I moved into our new safe house with Xiaonan. I was counting the days. There was only one day left before the massive temperature drop. But I didn't expect that at this critical juncture, my mother-in-law returned to the city on the exact same day Fan Jian came back to. And he brought a heavily pregnant woman with him. My mother-in-law arrived first. Truly, if you don't seek death, you won't die. Lei Yujing, you delivered yourself straight to my doorstep. You can't blame me for this. Shortly after, her son returned. Fan Jian had told me that morning he would arrive in the afternoon. But premier told him that Xiaonan had a dance class and we wouldn't be home. So, when the front door opened, my mother-in-law and I watched. A woman and Fan Jian acting intimately, holding hands. As they walked in, seeing people in the living room, Fan Jian was clearly caught off guard. He quickly let go of the woman's hand, probably realizing his actions were too obvious. He hurriedly explained, "If, don't misunderstand. This is Li Ming's fiancée. Look how big her belly is. She almost fell just now, so I was just helping her. Li Ming knew I was flying back. So, he asked me to bring his fiancée back to the country to have the baby." Playing along with Fan Jian's explanation, the woman sweetly called out, "Hello, sister-in-law." Fan Jian's affair was kept very tight. Even my mother-in-law had no idea. So, in my mother-in-law's eyes, this was just a heavily pregnant woman with bad intentions, trying to seduce her precious son. My mother-in-law didn't give her a friendly look at all. She pulled a long face and said, "Since you're back in the country, you should go back to your own home. Following my son home with a big belly. Even if you have nothing to hide. We don't want the neighbors gossiping." The woman didn't say a word. She just stood weakly behind Fan Jian. Fan Jian blocked his mother and waved his hand impatiently. "Enough. I flew thousands of miles back, and I haven't even had a sip of water yet. Let me rest first." He then squeezed next to me and asked, "Right, wife. Didn't you say Xiaonan was taking a class? When are you picking her up?" "Oh, right." I pretended to just remember. I grabbed my car keys and left to pick up my daughter. A little while later, through the cameras I had installed, I saw my mother-in-law still complaining. By now, Fan Jian was certain I had left. He angrily snapped at his mom. "Anug. Stop with your vulgar words. Stop calling her a fox spirit and making snide remarks." Lei Yujing stared at her son in disbelief. How could her normally filial son speak to her like that? For the sake of an outsider with a big belly, just as Lei Yujing was about to cry and curse at him for being unfilial. Fan Jian carefully protected Lily and said, "If you don't want your precious grandson in Lily's belly, then go ahead and cry." But Lei Yujing couldn't process it, her expression changing several times. Fan Jian helped Lily sit safely on the sofa and went to support his mother. "That fox spirit is actually the mother of your unborn grandson. You're about to have a grandson." Lei Yujing was overwhelmed by this sudden good news. She was trembling with excitement. Good, good. Our Fan family finally has a male heir. Now, I have the face to meet your father in the afterlife. The way she looked at the fox spirit now became incredibly loving. It was 100% the look of a mother-in-law, completely satisfied with her daughter-in-law, through the camera. They looked like an incredibly harmonious family of 3. And I had arrived at my new home. Our safe house. With me, Xiaonan, and my mom. My mom had brought Xiaonan back from her dance class. Xiaonan was talking non-stop, telling stories about what happened in class, making my mom laugh heartily. Yes, having experienced the terror of the extreme cold in life. Before the temperature dropped, I had called my mom over from the neighboring province. As for the excuse, I just told Fan Jian that since his mother went back to the countryside and I was busy with work sometimes, I needed her to help watch the kid during summer break. My mom packed her things without a word and came over. Of course, when I brought her to the new house, she was stunned and asked, "When did you buy a new house?" I had no idea. I just said I wasn't sleeping well in the old one. And since housing prices dropped this year, I bought a new one to improve our living environment. That was actually true. Housing prices plummeted this year, and I had already planned to buy a new house. I just hadn't told Fan Jian about the plan yet. Before all this happened. Now, I certainly wasn't going to tell him. I was looking forward to his karma. Premier told Fan Jian that there was an emergency at the supermarket I needed to handle, and I had to take Xiaonan with me. As for dinner, his mom and his friend's fiancé out to eat. Fan Jian acted hesitant, asking me repeatedly on the phone, "Do you really not have time for dinner together tonight?" But on the camera, I could see his expression was visibly relieved. I insisted I really had no time tonight. Tomorrow would be the big temperature drop. I did another check of the house's security system and our supply stock. I confirmed we had enough to comfortably survive 2 to 3 years. To avoid getting sick, we planned not to leave the house starting tonight. My family was eating hot pot with the heater on. I also had the camera stream from Fan Jian's side playing. It was like watching a drama while eating hot pot. Originally, Fan Jian had gotten ready to take them out for dinner. But Lily used her pregnancy as an excuse, saying she was too tired today, feeling dizzy, and didn't want to go out. For the sake of her precious grandson, Lei Yujing cooked all the remaining vegetables in the fridge. It was a large feast, and the 3 of them happily ate it all. Even the last 2 bottles of Xiaonan's milk were placed on the table by my mother-in-law. Congratulations to them, their food storage was now at absolute zero. The morning news was still broadcasting that today's temperature hit a new high, reminding citizens to reduce outdoor activities in the heat wave and to beware of heat stroke. Xiaonan and I hadn't been home all night, but Fan Jian didn't call even once. He was too lost in his mistress's embrace. He just slept with her directly that night. It wasn't until noon that the 3 of them finally woke up. Outside, the wind was howling. Raindrops began slapping against the windows. À tel point, I've thought of it as a normal, heavy summer rain after a long drought. Fan Jian finally called me. He asked where I was. I said I was at my best friend's house. He gave a brief hum and asked when I was coming back. I replied, "I'll be quick." "Okay, by the way, when you come back, stop by the bun shop at the community gate and bring some buns. None of us have eaten breakfast. It's raining so heavily outside. It's hard to order delivery." I readily agreed. Okay, hanging up the phone. My Xiaonan was sitting by the window watching the rain, looking at her sweet face. I asked her, "If you didn't have your dad anymore, would you be sad?" Xiaonan ran over and hugged me. "As long as mom is with me forever, I'm happy." Then I had no more worries. Half an hour later, the temperature plummeted to 5 degrees. The abnormal weather was already trending online. Everyone was discussing this sudden storm, taking advantage of this window. Cars on the streets were speeding away to seek shelter. Fan Jian called me again, his tone laced with impatience. He asked me where I was. I said, "On the way, the rain was too heavy just now, so I waited a long time." He said, "Okay, bring it then," and in a complaining tone, he added, "The whole family hasn't eaten. We're waiting for you to bring food back." I cheerfully agreed. Ingénué, I looked at the camera. Fan Jian was on the sofa, playing games. If he had functioning hands and feet, he could have crawled to the community gate to get food himself. Unfortunately, he placed all his hopes on someone who was never returning to that house, me. Lily seemed hungry too. She picked up the last bottle of milk from the table and drank it in a few gulps. The wind gradually stopped, but the temperature outside felt even colder. Looking on, frost had formed on the leaves of the trees. I turned on the heating for the whole house, setting it to the maximum temperature. After all, in one day, the public power grid would collapse. By then, we would have to switch to backup power. Fan Jian and his family probably finally realized something was wrong. Fan Jian called me frantically. As soon as I answered, he impatiently asked, "Where are you now?" I tried to make my tone sound anxious. "Still on the way. This damn weather. The roads are frozen over. I can only drive very slowly." Fan Jian sighed in relief and said, "Then try to hurry up. We're all starving." By this time, it started snowing outside. First, a light snow, which gradually turned into a heavy blizzard. Fan Jian dialed my number over and over again. Unfortunately, I had already turned on airplane mode. He couldn't reach me. The expressions of the people in that house shifted from initial confusion to sheer panic. Fan Jian's family finally stopped placing their hopes on me. Premier sau Fan Jian. Put on a thick down jacket. Puis on hâte. And prepare to go downstairs to buy food. The other two on the camera honestly sat on the sofa, waiting for him to bring food back. Outside, the wind was raging. Inside, the two of them were starving. Suddenly, the smell of barbecue drifted through the air in my house. It was Xiaonan, holding a skewer of meat, bringing it right to me. Premier tout habite. The meat was crispy outside and tender inside. Xiaonan proudly told me. Mom, I roasted this myself. She had such a cute, triumphant little face. It melted my heart. I quickly praised her for being amazing. Xiaonan skipped happily back to the kitchen to find my mom. I looked at the scumbag family on my phone, suffering from hunger. My mood was fantastic. Finally, there was movement on the camera, again. From outside, loud knocking sounds could be heard. Lei Yujing hurried to open the door. Lily also stood up, staring expectantly at the entrance. But Fan Jian returned empty-handed. He didn't bring anything back at all. Fan Jian said he checked several convenience stores in the community, but they were all closed. Lei Yujing clutched her starving stomach. Atipuali mentioned me. Seek. If only Hui were here. Indeed, all these years, both mother and son were used to treating me like their servant. If either of them had ever bought a single bag of salt, a single bottle of water, or spoken even once to the convenience store owner or the property management, he wouldn't have had to make a wasted trip downstairs. A single phone call would have told him everything. I even had a message on WeChat from 3 hours ago. A mass text from the convenience store owner downstairs. Due to extreme weather, the convenience store will close in 1 hour. Reopening time is TBD. Neighbors, please hurry if you need to pick up packages or buy things. Don't make a wasted trip. Lily was by no means a good person either. Seeing Fan Jian return empty-handed, she cursed at him. Fan Jian, you son of a bitch. Did you bring me here just to die? How could Lei Yujing stand watching her son get yelled at? Seeing their arguments getting nastier, I quickly muted the camera. Migo Girl was still in the house. Xiaonan couldn't hear this sort of filth. But in just the blink of an eye, when I looked back at the screen, the two women were shoving each other. Fan Jian quickly stood between them, terrified they'd hurt his unborn son. Inzikao. Someone landed a hard slap right on Fan Jian's face. Right at that moment, the camera feed indicated a network and power outage. The temperature outside was too low, and parts of the power grid had been destroyed. Fortunately, our house had full insulation. So, even with the power out, the room temperature barely dropped. 2 days passed. I could only imagine how miserable Fan Jian's family was. Only had the most basic, useless renovations, just enough to appease Fan Jian and his mother. Now, they had no electricity, no food, and it was freezing. Taking advantage of the fact that cellular networks hadn't fully collapsed yet, I sent Fan Jian a video. The bubbling steam rising from our hot pot was undoubtedly the best comfort in this extreme cold. The moment I sent the video, Fan Jian immediately called me. Wife, where are you? I'm coming to find you. Why couldn't I reach your phone before? Is that hot pot you're making? Fan Jian was desperate, bombarding me with questions. It seemed he was starving to death. What did you say? The signal is bad. I immediately hung up the call. Then, I completely ignored Fan Jian's endless stream of call requests and kept stuffing my face with food. What I didn't expect was that, besides Fan Jian, Lei Yujing was also constantly messaging me. In the time it took me to finish my meal, I had 99 plus notifications. I only replied with one sentence. Mom, why aren't I coming back? Don't you know the reason yourself? As for the reason, I let them figure it out. Lei Yujing sent a barrage of messages. So you say. She knew exactly what she had done. She knew she had crossed the line. Even Fan Jian started apologizing to me on his mother's behalf. But I didn't reply once. Eventually, they grew desperate. Lei Yujing called me. Hui, I've pleaded with you in every way possible, and you won't even reply once. What kind of attitude is this? It was obvious that, even at this point, Lei Yujing still couldn't grasp the situation. Mom, I never blamed you. But think about it. What could possibly be the reason that makes a woman rather stay out with her child in a blizzard than return to her own home? You know everything. Lei Yujing was bad at keeping secrets. With just one casual remark, she exposed her son's guilt. Hui, it's actually not what you think. No need to explain. I decisively cut her off. Mom, you tell Fan Jian. I just want a proper explanation. If it's an explanation that satisfies me, I can let bygones be bygones. And bring you and Fan Jian over here. After all, my food, heating, en suppli, are more than enough to support a family of 4. Okay. On the other end, Lei Yujing promised repeatedly. She said she would definitely make Fan Jian give me a satisfactory explanation. Even though I was mentally prepared, I was still shocked by the photo Fan Jian sent me. I didn't expect him to be so ruthless. In the photo, Lily lay stiff on the cold floor, next to a wooden stool. Dark red blood pooled from the back of her head, staining a large area of the floor. If she took advantage of me when I was drunk. I thought it was you. When I was abroad, I missed you so much every single day. On my phone, Fan Jian's voice messages played out loud, one by one. Luckily, my mom had gone to put Xiaonan to bed. I didn't want her to be terrified by this. After all, in my mom's eyes, Fan Jian was hardworking, ambitious, diligent, and filial. That was the reason my mom felt safe giving me to him back then. But who would have known? It turns out that until pushed to the brink, human nature can be completely disguised and hidden. I realized that if it hadn't been for that nightmare, even without this winter apocalypse, Fan Jian would have eventually schemed me out of everything. Being left with absolutely nothing might have been the best outcome for me. A wealthy widow. That was what he truly wanted to be. 2 more days passed, and I finally lost all contact with Fan Jian. I remember that day, using the very last 1% of his phone's battery. Fan Jian called to beg me to save him. But what answered him wasn't me, but the sound of his door being smashed open on his end. Before his phone died completely, I only whispered softly. Fanjian, haven't you figured it out yet? From the very beginning, I never intended to save you. He didn't even have time to curse at me, didn't have time to wail. It was replaced by the sound of people smashing things with clubs. I only heard the dull thuds of clubs striking flesh. Fanjian howled like a cornered, beaten stray dog. There was also a faint background noise, the sounding Yingleujing, kneeling and begging for mercy from those thugs. Remember when I said Lei Yujing loved posting videos? This time, even though there were no supplies left at home to show off, she had posted so many videos in the past. And they all included her location tags. What could I do? Since she loved to flex so much, while everyone was trapped at home by the blizzard. Of course, I did her a favor and promoted her videos for free. The heavy snow buried everything. Countless days went by. Finally, on the 186th day after the big temperature drop, the blizzard finally stopped. The temperature slowly rose. More than a month later, humanity resumed normal life. Our family cooked a table full of good food, welcoming our new life.